everybody has a path in their career they plan on, but it generally doesn't work out that way. There's a series of events that happen to you along the way, and you don't know as they're happening because you only realize how important they were maybe a decade later when you realize it was a huge pivot point for you. Mine was when I was working in a summer job in college for a pet food company. And I had a German manager, a really interesting guy, and he taught me that most pet foods at that time were made from Sea of Japan tuna and chicken faces and beef lips and rendered, protein using mango juice to crush it up. Sounds horrific, but those are two basic engines, and then they'd add some peas or, some carrots, and they'd create cat food flavors. Decades later, when I was in the software industry, I realized that we were the leader in math and reading software, and here's where this story comes into play. All my competitors were spending a fortune building unique applications to advance reading and math scores. Those are the two big things you actually create software to advance if you're in education. And I thought to myself, that's crazy. This is really just Sea of Japan tuna and chicken faces. All we need are two engines, and we'll just add characters to them. And that was how the Learning Company became the largest software company in the world in reference in education. We sold it for $4.2 billion. But that manager gave me the idea to synergize around two development groups. So we'd buy a company, fire everybody, and just take the characters they had, and we cut our costs dramatically. Our costs of R&D were half the industries. Everybody was complaining, but how are we doing it? We're doing it because we understand that software is no different than cat food. You're always competing with somebody somewhere, and these days it's global. And you got to make the assumption that the person you're competing with really loves what they do, and they're willing to work 25 hours a day. And if you're not totally in love with it, you're screwed. So I would argue to an entrepreneur, don't start something that you don't have a lot of passion for, because you're going to fail, because you're going to be competing with people who do have that passion, who are motivated. And I see that happen all the time. They just get bored. And, maybe I've invested in them and I can see that they're just burned out. And if that happens, quite often I would say, probably about 30% of the time, after a while, and they realize, boy, this is hard work. Yeah, it is hard work. Running a business is really hard work. But it's an added bonus if you can get up in the morning and say, I can't wait to go fight the fight. Because with certainty your competitor's doing that. So that is a theme that we can both agree on. You better love it, baby. I was working once in an ice cream parlor when I was about 15 years old, my first real job. And on the second day, I was asked to scrape the gum off between the Mexican tiles on the floor. And I said to the woman who owned the store, it was called Magoo's Ice Cream Parlor, you didn't hire me to scrape gum, you hired me to scoop ice cream. And there's this girl in the shoe store across the way that's looking at me. I don't want to see her scraping the gum. And she said, what are you talking about? I own this store. I'll do anything I want with you. Get down on your knees and scrape that gum. And I said, I'm not doing it. She said, you're fired. Last job I ever had. I owe that woman everything. I don't like to work for people. Many of you in here, I hope, inherit that. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to control your own destiny, you work for yourself. That's how it works. I'm trying to inspire those of you who are on the tipping point. Take the chance, you're young. Go for it. There's nothing better than being able to wake up in the morning 10 years or 20 years from now and do whatever you like. It's about freedom. That's what matters. I'm not saying being an employee is bad, but believe me, being an entrepreneur is better. I'm a little biased.
Unfortunately, one of the great benefits of technology is productivity. One of the big downsides, it's incredibly distracting. People check their Twitter account, or they'll answer a Facebook message, or they'll do something that has nothing to do with making money. Mm-hmm. And the reason you go to work in the morning is to make money. That's what you're there for. All the other wonderful things you can do with your time are based on your ability to create an income for yourself and your family. So why spend any time doing all that crap, which is distracting? And so that's the number one thing I find in my companies is when you see someone failing and you look at how they manage their time, you'll see right there what's going on. They're not focused on what matters.
Okay.
That's simple.
Great entrepreneurs are able to delegate. The successful women CEOs are remarkably good at this. Remarkably good at it. And the way it works is, Sarah, I'll give you an example. The way Sarah works, she hires somebody, she sets a goal for 90 days, and gets out of their way. Gets completely out of their way. Lets them achieve it. If they achieve it, she moves them up the organization. If they don't, they get 3 tries until they're out. If you can't achieve your goals in business, that's what happens. But her whole thing is, let them do the work themselves. Let them figure it out. I don't want to use my time for it. That's what I hired them for.
I listen to my gut. It's not scientific. I've learned over time, and I think every entrepreneur should trust their feelings, because I've learned every time I don't listen to my gut, I lose money. Every time I say to myself, no, you're wrong about that, I second guess myself, I lose money. You have to listen. Successful entrepreneurs have a spider sense. I really believe that. They know what's right. They know what's wrong. They have to listen to themselves. And it doesn't always work out, but the minute you second guess yourself, you're screwed. You really are. You are no longer a leader. People that follow you into dark places have to trust you, and you have to trust yourself.
The key to success as an entrepreneur is not to understand your strengths, it's to understand your weaknesses. Now, here's what I knew I was weak at. Logistics. Manufacturing and shipping logistics bores the crap out of me. I'm just not interested in it. When Walmart came on board and said, look, we're going to change this whole industry and we're going to make you our guys in education software, we had the challenge of moving 80 million units. I can't do that. That's not my skill set. Michael Perrick, on the other hand, is myopically focused at that kind of thing. And I knew that. He was one of our shareholders. I went and approached him and said, listen, why don't you leave your PE firm, okay? I'll give up the title of CEO. You're going to be the CEO. Your number one role is going to be logistics. Because if we're not successful at this, we're going to fail. This is the only thing that matters, is shipping these units all around the world. He looked at me and said, what's in it for me? I said, you know what? I own a ton of stock, lots and lots of it. I'll make a deal with you. I'll make us equal partners. And this is how, and I'll tell you, in the book, in writing it, I looked at every transaction where I've made money, not just learning companies, Storage Now, the OLeary funds, deals before that. All the deals where I made money were partnerships. All the ones where I had catastrophic failures are things I tried to do myself. So I've learned now that it's much better to partner with somebody who actually fills in the hole.
Every entrepreneur I meet is very passionate. That's just part of the equation. I actually argue that what matters most is executional skills. Every entrepreneur is passionate. Everybody that's an entrepreneur is ready to take that journey and go down that road, and that's great. But the ones that are still doing it 3 years later have executional skills. So that's what I think matters above everything else. I meet lots of teams, I fund lots of companies, I see lots of failure and lots of successes. The difference is men and women, primarily women these days, that can really execute, that set goals, tell you what they are, talk to you every 3 months saying I achieved this goal or I didn't, and why. And to me, that's the building block of a business. There's nothing worse than vision all day long. Vision's easy. Execution is hard.
But do you really literally mean that if you are in business, you have to be willing to fire your mom?
You know, it's true, you do. Because in the end, when you create a business and you start one, many entrepreneurs in this audience will understand this comment, your allegiance has to be to the business first, because without that, all the good things that you want to do are going to fail. And so as your business grows and you make decisions about individual people, you can't let your emotion get in the way of what you really need to do, which is to drive success of the business. And so the minute you get your first customer, you now become number 2. The minute you get your first investor, now you're number 3. The minute you hire your second employee, you're number 4. It's still your business, but now you know who you have to serve. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that fail don't understand that you're always serving someone. A shareholder, a customer, the business. And if you lose sight of that by letting your emotions get in the way, and this often happens, certainly happened to me in early days, many people hire their friends. They start a company with their friend or with their brother.
Good way to end a friendship.
Or it's a family business. And very often, nepotism is what kills the golden goose.
because very often the better manager is not your sister, brother, uncle, cousin, whatever. And I live through this all the time in the companies that I'm an investor in. I have 32 portfolio companies now. I watch this happen every day, and I don't let emotion get in the way of the true pursuit of what matters, the success of the business.
The only reason you add employees is sales is growing. You don't add employees unless revenue is increasing because you can't afford them. If you have sales growth, then you have to start thinking about getting support people so your customer service level stays in the top quartile. That's when you hire people. You're always keeping your eye on how do I service my customers, how do I make sure my employees are happy, how do I make sure my investors are happy. Those are your three constituencies. But number one is you've got to have happy customers. And the reason you bring on the risk of that extra overhead is you need employees to do that. So no hiring anybody until your sales go up. Every time you double your sales, you should add a couple of people to do customer service and support in all areas of the business, whether it's accounting, whether it's what you do online to support them, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales. Those people are supporting customers at the end of the day. That's how it works. No hiring anybody until sales go up.
How can I overcome my self-doubt and other people's opinions, especially my close ones like my family? And how can I grow my business to the next level?
Swapnil, fantastic question. Every entrepreneur has self-doubt. It's just that you don't want to show it to the outside world. People want to follow somebody that knows where they're going. But you have to be able to deal with your insecurity. You can't let your family tell you don't know what you're doing, not when you have a burning desire to be an entrepreneur. The key to success, though, is to find somebody that augments your skills. If you're great in one area, find someone who's better in another, that you're weak in. That's how you can really reduce your self-doubt and make your outcomes much better, because you're reducing your risk by getting a partner in the business. But don't let someone tell you can't do it. That's just crap, particularly your family. Many people are jealous about entrepreneurs. They want to try it, but they don't have the guts to do it. Even within a family that happens. Doesn't mean you don't love them. It's just you're not listening to them when they give you all that naysayer stuff. Stay focused on the goal and deal with your insecurities. Everybody has them.
What's the value of a stock that never returns capital to its shareholders? I don't know, because the only way you can make money is if somebody else is willing to buy that position at a higher price for some emotional reason, perhaps, or for some foresight that maybe the company will return capital one day. And I think of when you learn as an investor over multiple decades is the only thing that matters is free cash flow. That's it. There is no other reason to own a stock. And with that philosophy, it brings you into a place where you focus on the company's ability to generate incremental cash flow, because just owning a dividend-paying stock is not good enough. Because, let's say we find a stock today that's paying a 3% dividend yield, and tomorrow, because its forecast for sales get cut in half, the stock drops by 50%. Now it's yielding 6%. I don't want to own that stock either. So my tests in this index that I've created with FTSE Russell looks at the balance sheet. Every year we test to make sure that the company is viable in its ability to generate cash. This is extremely conservative investing. This is for the long haul. These tools are not for, as you're suggesting, for spicy, the hot stock du jour. I've done that. I've been there. Let the young legs do that. I have zero interest in that. I don't care what the hot new stock is. When a company comes public, I won't own it either. It's got to prove to me over multiple years that it can continue to generate cash before it even fits into what I'm doing. So I'm really boring, and I like it that way. If you come and tell me you're the CEO, you're the founder, you're the largest shareholder, that you know and you're perfect at everything, I know you're full of crap. That is so not true. Great entrepreneurs know their weaknesses and surround themselves with solutions. The logistics person, the marketing person, the accounting person, the saleswoman, the salesman.
I'll tell you something, nobody has a monopoly on great ideas, nobody. There's always somebody with a problem that needs to be solved, and that is the essence of a great business opportunity. Look around you in the world and see the problems people are having. Keep your eyes open, and when you discover one that you think you can fix, that is the beginning of a business, my friend. That's how it starts. So don't be down and don't say that all the great ideas are taken. That's never the case. There's always the next great idea, and that's what's wonderful about being an entrepreneur. You've got to keep sort of your mind open and your eyes open and always be looking for opportunity. And don't be depressed. I don't like that tone. Let's get happy and let's get focused and let's get to work. And by the way, the greatest companies ever started were many that were started with no money. It's not about money, it's about solving somebody's problem. If you can solve a problem, you can start a business, even with no cash. You're going to provide as much as you can for the little as you can to start it and prove it out. You get a product or service that people are buying and they're saying this works for me or solving a problem. That's the beginning of a great journey. My advice to people that want to be mavericks is put your blinders on, focus on what you want to achieve, and don't listen to all the noise. That noise is horrific and just really, really bad. And it's always going to be eating at you, but you've got to stay focused on the goal. I was taught that years ago by a mentor, and it's absolutely true. Stay focused. Don't let distractors bother you. Don't let them get you down. And invariably, you're going to be kicked to the ground as a maverick or an entrepreneur or anybody that's trying to achieve their own freedom. But you got to get up and keep going.